After finishing my first build of the SnapTite Max Camaro concept car, I decided to try it again, this time making improvements and trying some new techniques. In this video, I'll walk you through the changes I made, including custom aero parts, a racing stripe paint job, and lessons I learned from my first build. The second build was an exciting challenge because I already knew what I wanted to do differently. For starters, I decided to use the wheels included on the kit to avoid the fitment issues that I had from the prior build. I also wanted to create custom aero parts to give the car a sportier look. I started by checking out custom Camaros online for inspiration. To prepare, I spent time researching painted racing stripes and real-world aero parts on Pinterest and eBay. With all of these ideas in mind, I marked up my instructions and dove into the project. This began a process that I would do for future builds by creating mood boards based on some of the ideas that I wanted to replicate. I highly recommend things like Pinterest because you can save specific albums and refer back to them no matter where you're at. Once I had my ideas, I prepped the body by sanding it down, something I didn't do on the first build. This would give the primer a better surface to hold on to. For the body kit parts, I created a front lip and side splitters using styrene sheets, adding a unique touch to the build. For the interior, I used a white primer to make the blue paint I wanted stand out a little bit more against the black plastic. While I brushed on the blue, the result wasn't great. It was thick and messy. This was a key moment when I realized I might need to invest in airbrushes for future builds. To improve the masking process, I used smaller strips of tape and pressed it into those creases for sharper lines. I wanted the front seats to have a more sporty feel, so I experimented with creative masking choices. The results weren't perfect, but they were a step forward. After priming the bottom of the car with gray surface primer, I masked off the engine and exhaust system as I did before, spraying them with Tamiya silver acrylic. To prepare the body, I wet sanded the primer for a smooth finish and gave it 2 to 3 passes of silver paint. The panel scribing wasn't perfect, especially on the hood and front bumper. I sprayed the aero kit parts matte black, originally planning to use carbon fiber decals. Unfortunately, the decals didn't arrive in time, so I just left the parts matte black to match the rear diffuser. After letting the body dry for a few days, I added masking lines for racing stripes. This time, I was thrilled with how symmetrical they turned out. Originally planning for additional designs on the side, I ended up skipping these because I felt that they looked a little too busy compared to the simple stripes down the middle. For the underside, I also noticed some areas should be painted the body color for added realism. This will actually come back to haunt me later, considering I didn't think ahead. After masking it off, I sprayed the underside blue before finishing it with matte black. The yellow tinted fog lights were a fun addition, inspired by real-life mods I had seen. They stood out beautifully against the metallic blue body. For the interior, I used my chrome pen for pedals and dash details and layered colored Sharpies to highlight the controls and belt buckles. Just as I did with the first build, I also used chrome pens for the side markers, layering red and orange on top. This added a lot of character to the build. I once again decided to use matte black for the diffuser on the back, this time paying closer attention to how I did my masking to achieve a little bit of a sharper result. I was much happier with this one. After both major parts of the build were completed, it was time to put it together. While it was a good idea at first to add the extra color to the underside of the car to add some realism, you can see where planning really comes into play because the custom pieces that I created for this build ended up covering all of that up anyway. It was fun nonetheless. This second build taught me how important preparation and patience are. From sanding the body to masking more carefully, each step helped me get closer to the results I wanted. I also realized how much tools like airbrushes could improve the quality of building in future projects, especially for much more consistent finishes. If you're revisiting a kit or trying new modifications, I'd recommend embracing the learning process. Every mistake is an opportunity to improve for your next project. Thanks for following along with my second attempt at the SnapTite Max Camaro concept car. I was much happier with this build even though it wasn't perfect. If you're working on a kit or have tips for customizing model cars, I'd love to hear about them in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe to follow along with my next builds and see how I continue to improve. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.